There's a moment that comes for many of us after 50 when something as simple as bending down to tie a shoe or climbing a flight of stairs feels heavier than it used to. The joints complain, the knees groan, and mornings often begin with stiffness that takes time to loosen. It's tempting to believe this is just the price of aging, that nothing can be done except to swallow another pain pill. But what if I told you the truth is far more hopeful, that hidden in the food you eat every day lies the power to ease arthritis pain, reduce inflammation, and bring back a sense of freedom in your movement? And not in some exotic supplement or costly treatment, but in something as humble and familiar as rice. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Wellness Blueprint Over 50. Today, I'll reveal 3 extraordinary types of rice that could transform your joint health. When I think of brown rice, I'm reminded of a patient named Carol. She was 67 when she came to see me, moving slowly, her hands wrapped in soft cloths because of the morning stiffness that left her struggling to even make a cup of tea. She told me, "Dr. Brian, I feel trapped in my own body." What struck me most wasn't just her pain, but her sense of resignation, as if the life she wanted had already been taken from her. Together, we talked about small, practical steps, things that wouldn't overwhelm her but could quietly shift the tide. One of the first changes we tried was swapping out the white rice she ate daily for brown rice. It sounded simple, even too simple, but over the next few months, Carol began to notice a difference. That's the power of whole foods that nourish instead of inflame. So what makes brown rice special? Imagine a piece of wood. If you shave off the bark, the outer layer, you're left with the bare trunk, useful but stripped of much of its protective strength. White rice is like that trunk. It's been refined, polished, and stripped of its nutrient-rich outer layers. Brown rice, on the other hand, keeps its bark, the bran and germ, and with it, a treasure chest of natural compounds that our bodies crave, especially when battling arthritis. One of its quiet heroes is fiber. Most people hear fiber and think only of digestion, but fiber is a warrior against inflammation. In the body, inflammation acts like tiny sparks of fire that spread through the joints, causing pain and swelling. Fiber helps sweep away the kindling that fuels these sparks, reducing the overall fire of inflammation. In a 2016 study published in Annals of the Rheumatic Diseases, researchers found that diets higher in fiber were associated with lower levels of C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation in the blood. That's science speaking clearly. Fiber can calm the storm inside. Then there's magnesium. I often describe magnesium as the silent conductor of the body's orchestra. Without it, the instruments, our muscles, nerves, and bones, play out of tune. For someone with arthritis, this mineral helps relax the muscles surrounding the joints, easing tension and reducing that locked, achy feeling. Magnesium also partners with calcium to strengthen bones. This matters because arthritis doesn't just attack cartilage, it weakens the very structures that carry us. By keeping those bones resilient, magnesium buys us time and mobility. Antioxidants in brown rice add yet another layer of protection. Picture them as little guardians holding shields against free radicals, those unstable molecules that chip away at cells and worsen joint inflammation. Left unchecked, free radicals speed up the aging of our joints. But with antioxidants in your corner, it's like having guards patrolling your castle walls day and night. They don't let destruction go unchallenged. What about blood sugar? You might wonder what that has to do with arthritis. Here's the hidden link. High blood sugar triggers the release of compounds that amplify inflammation throughout the body. White rice sends blood sugar soaring, while brown rice, with its complex carbohydrates and fiber, slows the release of sugar, keeping things steady. A stable sugar level means fewer inflammation spikes, fewer flare-ups, and more consistent comfort. Of course, the question is, how does someone like Carol bring brown rice into her everyday life without it feeling like a chore? The beauty is its versatility. Brown rice can become the base of a warm, colorful bowl filled with roasted vegetables and a bit of grilled chicken. It can soak up the flavors of a hearty soup or replace white rice in a stir-fry. Yes, it takes a little longer to cook, but I like to tell my patients that those extra 20 minutes are an investment. What you get in return is not just nourishment, but resilience. Cook a batch on Sunday, and it's ready to use throughout the week. Over time, Carol told me something remarkable. She said, "It's not just that my hands hurt less, it's that I feel lighter, more capable." The shift in her diet had rippled into her sense of self. That's what happens when food begins working with your body instead of against it. Every bite of brown rice was like planting seeds of healing, and gradually those seeds sprouted into more freedom, more energy, more life. So when you think of arthritis relief, don't just imagine pills or creams. Picture a bowl of warm, nutty brown rice. It's more than a side dish. It's a natural ally, gently fighting inflammation, nourishing bones, calming muscles, and giving back the kind of energy you thought was lost to age. Small, steady changes can bring back the freedom of bending, stretching, and walking without that constant shadow of pain. And often that journey begins with something as humble as brown rice. When I mention black rice to patients, many look at me with surprise. Black rice? I've never even heard of it, they say. It feels exotic, almost mysterious, with its deep, dark color that looks more like polished stone than something you'd eat. Yet this grain, once reserved only for emperors in ancient China, earning the name forbidden rice, is one of the most powerful foods for anyone living with arthritis. Its darkness is no accident. That striking color comes from anthocyanins, the same compounds that give blueberries and purple grapes their vibrant hues. And hidden inside those pigments is a story of healing that few people know. Let me share about Harold, a retired school teacher in his early 70s. Harold had spent a lifetime standing at chalkboards, pacing classrooms, and lifting stacks of books. By the time he came to me, his knees were stiff and swollen, and his energy was fading. He confessed that even walking to the corner store felt daunting. When we reviewed his diet, it was plain and repetitive, with lots of white bread and white rice. I suggested something unusual. Try black rice a few times a week. He was skeptical, but Harold was also curious. Within a few months, he began telling me something that lit up his face. "Dr. Brian, I can walk longer without that throbbing ache. I didn't think rice could make such a difference." So what is it about black rice? Think of inflammation as rust forming on metal. Slowly, quietly, it eats away at strength and structure. The anthocyanins in black rice act like a rust-proof coating. They neutralize free radicals, those unstable molecules that act like sparks accelerating the rust. And they calm the body's inflammatory messengers, called cytokines. By turning down this internal alarm system, black rice can soothe the angry swelling in joints. There's strong science behind this. Studies have shown anthocyanins reduce markers of inflammation and oxidative stress, both central to arthritis pain. Another gift of black rice is its fiber. Much like brown rice, it keeps digestion steady and nurtures gut bacteria. And why should gut health matter to your aching knees or stiff fingers? Because the gut and the immune system are intimately linked. A balanced gut means fewer inflammatory signals being sent throughout the body. It's like having a well-trained army that defends instead of attacking its own citizens. With every serving of black rice, you're quietly retraining that army to protect your joints rather than harm them. Protein content is another hidden strength. Arthritis slowly damages tissues, cartilage, ligaments, even the muscles that support your joints. Repair requires building blocks, and protein provides them. Compared to white rice, black rice offers more of those blocks, making it a sturdier ally in healing. And then there's iron, a mineral that carries oxygen through the blood. Many patients with arthritis tell me they feel exhausted, and low oxygenation is often part of the story. With more iron, black rice can give you a gentle lift in energy, fueling the simple joys of walking, gardening, or playing with grandchildren. And what about taste? Black rice has a nutty flavor with a slightly sweet undertone, along with a chewy texture that makes each bite satisfying. Harold told me he started making warm black rice salads with roasted vegetables, drizzling olive oil and lemon juice over the top. Sometimes his wife made a comforting pudding with coconut milk and a touch of honey, a dessert that soothed his sweet tooth without sending his blood sugar on a roller coaster. That's another plus. Its lower glycemic impact keeps inflammation from spiking, unlike refined carbs that trigger painful flares. Cooking black rice takes a little patience, about 35 minutes of simmering, but I remind patients that healing often requires slowing down. And for those who want convenience, pre-cooked options exist, making it easier to integrate into daily meals. Yes, it costs more than white rice, but consider it an investment in your joints, in your ability to climb stairs without wincing or to rise from a chair without bracing yourself. What inspires me most is watching how these changes ripple out into patients' lives. Harold not only found relief in his knees, but also rekindled his love of evening walks with his wife. He said the color of black rice reminded him that food could be both beautiful and powerful, a symbol that healing can come from unexpected places. For him, the grain that once belonged only to royalty became a bridge back to independence and joy. So when you see black rice, don't think of it as strange or out of reach. Think of it as a gift from the past, once forbidden but now freely available, holding within its dark kernels the possibility of less pain, more energy, and the chance to move with confidence again. When people first hear about wild rice, many are surprised to learn it's not technically rice at all, but the seed of a watergrass. Yet in many ways that makes it even more extraordinary. Its long, dark grains have a chewy texture and earthy flavor, and inside those slender seeds lies a combination of nutrients that can make a real difference for people living with arthritis. Wild rice is nature's quiet rebel. It looks different, cooks differently, and nourishes in ways that set it apart. One of my patients, Evelyn, discovered this firsthand. She was 69, a retired librarian who loved tending her garden, but had almost given it up because bending and kneeling became unbearable. "My knees feel like they're on fire," she said. Her shelves were lined with cookbooks, but she had fallen into a rut, eating the same few meals that were easy on her budget. When I suggested wild rice, she chuckled. "Doctor, I can barely afford my prescriptions, let alone fancy grains." But with a little encouragement, she tried it. Slowly, she noticed a shift. A few months later, she told me with a smile, "I'm back in the garden. I can stay out there for hours again." So, what makes wild rice so special for arthritis? One of its crown jewels is omega-3 fatty acids. Most people associate omega-3s with fish, but wild rice provides them in a plant-based form. Omega-3s are like the oil that keeps the hinges of a door moving smoothly. Without them, the hinges creak and grind. With them, movement feels fluid. Inside the body, omega-3s actively reduce the inflammatory chemicals that damage cartilage and intensify pain. They don't just soothe today's discomfort, they help protect tomorrow's mobility by slowing down joint deterioration. Wild rice also brims with antioxidants, those defenders that guard cells against oxidative stress. Remember the rust on metal image? These antioxidants are like a protective coating, stopping the rust before it spreads. For someone with arthritis, that means less wear and tear on the delicate tissues that cushion and support every step you take. But the story doesn't end there. Wild rice delivers vital minerals like zinc and manganese. Zinc helps repair tissues, almost like a mason patching cracks in a brick wall. Manganese supports collagen production, the protein scaffolding that keeps joints strong and resilient. When zinc and manganese are present, healing isn't just possible, it's actively supported at the cellular level. That's crucial for someone like Evelyn, whose knees needed not only relief but reinforcement. The beauty of wild rice is also in its versatility. Evelyn began cooking it in big batches, adding herbs and roasted vegetables for hearty salads, or simmering it with broth for warming soups. Sometimes she served it simply with olive oil and lemon, letting its nutty taste shine. Unlike plain white rice, wild rice feels substantial, almost celebratory. Eating it becomes an experience, not just a routine. Yes, it takes about 45 minutes to cook, but Evelyn found that the aroma filling her kitchen turned it into a ritual she enjoyed. Some patients worry about the cost, since wild rice can be pricier. But here's the truth. You don't need large portions to gain its benefits. Even a small serving provides omega-3s, antioxidants, and minerals that tip the scales in your body's favor. A little goes a long way, especially when it's part of a consistent habit. Think of it not as an expense, but as an investment in standing tall, in walking across the garden without wincing, in kneeling down to smell the roses without fear of being stuck there. Evelyn's story still warms me. She told me, "I thought my gardening days were behind me, But now I can prune my roses again. I can lose myself in the soil and the sun. What she really regained wasn't just mobility, but joy. Arthritis had narrowed her world, and a simple shift in food helped widen it again. That's the quiet power of wild rice. It nourishes not just the body, but the spirit. So when you see wild rice, don't dismiss it as a luxury or an oddity. See it as nature's medicine chest, filled with tools your body can use to fight inflammation, rebuild strength, and restore movement. It may not be the rice you grew up with, but it could be the rice that helps you grow old with grace, mobility, and vitality. So now you know, the humble bowl of rice can be more than comfort food. It can be medicine for your joints. Brown rice, with its fiber and magnesium, gently calms inflammation. Black rice, rich in anthocyanins, repairs and energizes. Wild rice, carrying omega-3s and vital minerals, protects and rebuilds. Together, they offer more than arthritis pain relief. They promise resilience, mobility, and renewed joy in everyday life. Remember, healing isn't about grand gestures, but small, steady choices. Try these grains, savor them, and notice the difference. I'm Dr. Brian. Thank you for joining me. Stay hopeful, stay active, and stay well.